Good morning, teachers and students, grade 10 classes, and thank you again for joining us on this fourth installment of the OSSLT support. And again, we're looking at multiple choice strategies. We will be following the same sort of structure for this lesson that we have for the three previous lessons. We're going to look at some multiple choice questions, and like last week's installment as well, we'll read a selection narrative text, and we will answer some multiple choice questions based on that. We've got a lot to get to, and I want to try my best to keep today's video a little shorter than last week's. So without any further introduction or delay, let's move forward. Let's do a quick review of our strategies. Again, you've heard them, but it will not hurt you to hear them one more time very, very quickly nevertheless. Okay, so what are we striving for when we answer multiple choice questions? Remember, we are troubleshooting. We aren't expecting there to be one kind of solution or one strategy that always works. We have to try multiple strategies, and then we have to make a decision about which one works best. That will actually apply, or does apply quite aptly to today's question. One of them is about inferencing, and I'll talk more about it later on. Okay, strategy number one, do not skim and scan, okay? You can't read aloud. You don't want to make too much noise during the literacy test, but you don't want to skim and scan your multiple choice questions. You need to extract, pull, draw as much meaning or detail as you can out of those questions. You want to, in some cases, try to determine the answer before looking at your options. Especially if you're confident about an answer. If there's a question that asks you something directly from the text and you remember it and you can answer it without looking at your options, then you can use that strategy. You always want to look for any clues or direction in the question itself. We will apply this strategy today. We'll be going back into the text, into a reading to answer some questions. And then substitution and elimination, probably the most general and most easy to apply strategies. Remember, elimination is basically getting rid of options that you can sense not to be true. Substitution is trying all of the options to see which one makes the most sense. And then these notes on time, don't take more time than necessary. You've got to just sort of have an internal clock about this. If you feel like you're staring at a question and you've stared at it and you've tried the strategies and still you're not making much progress, you sort of got to make the decision to move on, make note of what you've skipped, make a point of returning to it, but don't stare too long, and then leave nothing blank. Do not leave any questions blank. That's not going to help you at all. You don't lose marks for guessing. And I haven't put it down as a strategy, but it is almost self-evident. If you have to, and you have to make a choice, and none of the strategies have worked for you, a guess, an intelligent guess, might be your only option. All right, but I don't want to spend too much time on that. Let's return back to the reading that we looked at last week. I want to just draw your attention to some very, very important things. I called these cues last week, okay? We covered them last week, but just so that you're familiar, I want you to remember that there is no title. This area up here is blank. There's no title to this reading, okay? Which means that one of your challenges is going to be to put all of the information together. When I say all of the information, what do I mean? I mean everything, of course, that's in the text, but I also mean any other kind of cues, okay? This picture is a cue. The picture itself will not tell you what the text is about, but if you align the picture with what you read, you can essentially determine meaning, right? You have a greater understanding of what the entire narrative selection is about when you combine the text, which is all the writing, with the picture, okay? Remember, we talked about our paragraph markers as well. These are important, particularly for multiple choice strategy number 3. When we want to go back and look for clues inside the text, we have to follow our multiple choice markers. And those are always on the either left or, in this case, the right side of the page. All right, so those are our paragraph markers. We answered questions 1 and 2 last week. We're going to answer question 3 and 4. Before we do, it might help. I'm not going to read the entire selection again, but it might help just to summarize what the selection was about. We have a young girl named Hannah. Hannah's father is about to begin his second career as a chef, and he's nervous, so his daughter Hannah is giving him some tips on how to calm his nerves and how to give him a sense of confidence about starting his second career. Sort of a summary of the passage from last week. Again, I'm not going to read it all. That'll take too much time. Let's move to question 3 and 4, and let's see which strategies we're applying. So we're looking at question 3 right now, okay? And the question reads, what does Hannah mean when she says, I was a wreck? Now, I've read the question out loud. 2 strategies right away jump out at me. Strategy number 1 is I've got to go back into the text. That's a clue. I've got to go read paragraph 7. However, and I want to highlight this in a different color because this is an important kind of question. It's an important type of question. This is a question about meaning, okay? And it's really, really important that you focus on that word and that you make sense of the word meaning. What does Hannah mean? This kind of question will not be explicitly answered by going back to the text. When a question asks us about meaning, what it's asking us to do is to synthesize, to blend together information. That means if we just look at paragraph 7, we might not know what Hannah meant. If we look at paragraph 7, we'll know what Hannah said. She said, remember the night before I started my lifeguarding job. I was a wreck and you and Mom gave me advice. Okay, we can read that, but in and of itself, we might not know what it means. So it's important to go back earlier into the text and see what's the context. Why is Hannah talking about her job as a lifeguard, and what can she mean when she says she was a wreck? So we know that her father, Jerry, is nervous. He's nervous, and it says somewhere, in fact, that he has anxiety. Jerry has anxiety. And we know that Hannah is trying to tell him not to be nervous. So she's giving him advice on how to calm his nerves. So if she's giving her father advice on how to calm his nerves, this word wreck must have something to do with the fact that she was also nervous. She was also nervous. So that's sort of the sense that I have. So now let's look at all of my options and see which one of those options reflects that. Okay? So if I look at option A here, it says she was exhausted from lifeguarding. Again, I'm not going to make a decision. That might be a possible answer. I'm not quite sure yet. She feared starting a new lifeguarding job. She was injured while she was on the job. She needed help from the second career program. So I've read all of those options, and right away, I'm going to eliminate ones that simply aren't true. Option C is not true. Nowhere in the text does it tell me that she was injured on the job, okay? And I've looked before paragraph 7, and I can look after paragraph 7 if I need to. In this case, I don't. She was never injured on the job, Hannah. So I know that option C isn't an option. Option D, she needed help from the second career program. Well, the second career program applies to her father, Jerry, who's 44 years old and starting a second career. It doesn't apply to his daughter, Hannah. So Hannah doesn't need help from the second career program. All right, so I know that I've eliminated those 2 options. So which option am I more inclined towards now? Option A says either Hannah was exhausted or she feared starting a new lifeguarding job. So based on the meaning in the narrative text above paragraph 7, I know that Hannah's father, Jerry, is nervous. He fears starting a new job. He fears starting a new job after working so many years in a second or a previous career. If he fears starting a new job, that must mean that in paragraph 7, when Hannah says she was a wreck, she also feared starting a new job. And that's the option that I'm going to go with. Hannah feared starting a new lifeguarding job. Okay? So in question number 3, the strategies that we use the most is we read the question out loud, and we read all of our multiple choice options out loud. We were very explicit. We didn't skim over anything. We also went into the text for details, but I want to highlight again, when the question is asking us about meaning, we aren't expecting to go into the text and to find the answer. We have to sort of derive meaning. We have to synthesize meaning. We have to put meaning together. It isn't there for us just to pull out. So we have to make sense of what the word rec means, which is what we tried to do there. Okay? Let's go on to question number 4. How does Jerry feel when he exhales loudly in paragraph 10? Again, we are asking, how does he feel when he exhales loudly? So we're going to go to paragraph 10 and see if it explicitly states that in paragraph 10. Does it explicitly state how Jerry feels when he exhales? Jerry exhaled loudly. That helps. Any other tips? Okay, so we've read paragraph 10. It doesn't say anything explicitly directly about how Jerry feels. It says nothing about how he feels. So once again, we have to make meaning here. We have to look above and below to figure out what Jerry can be feeling when he exhales. Okay, so we can read this paragraph to know that when he exhales loudly, he says that helps. So he exhales and then he expresses the feeling of being helped. So that's a huge, huge clue. All right, we know that his daughter Hannah is telling him to take a deep breath, and she's giving him strategies on how to calm his anxiety. So the exhaling has something to do with the fact that he was nervous, he admits to being anxious, he receives guidance, take a deep breath, he exhales, and he says that that helps. So the exhaling has something to do with the fact that he's relaxed while he was nervous. So here are my options. He is beginning to relax. He is exhausted with worry. He is impatient with his children. He is irritated to receive so much of advice. Again, I'm going to use elimination strategy here to take out options D and option C. There is no evidence that he is irritated with his children, nor is there any evidence that he's feeling impatient. Okay? Instead, option A and B seem both feasible. He is either beginning to relax or he is exhausted with worry. They're very, very close. And the trick with the words here, it's quite easy to confuse or to conflate, to bring together the words exhale and the words exhaust. When you exhale, you breathe out, it's sort of a large breath out. But when you're exhausted, you're tired. Now, can we gain any information that Jerry is exhausted? It doesn't seem that way. He says that he feels helped by Hannah's advice, but nowhere else in the reading do we have evidence that he's tired. So, it seems that after we eliminate C and D, B seems the other most likely to be eliminated, and then we are left with option A. Jerry is beginning to relax. He says that helps. That helps is something where you would say in the event that someone has assisted you, that they've made your life a little bit easier. It's not something that you say when you're exhausted with worry. All right? So 2 examples there of having to go back into the text and to synthesize information, to put information together to arrive at meaning. We're not going back into the text to find the explicit answer. Thanks again, guys, for all your time. I took up more time than I wanted to, but you guys are a great audience anyway. Good luck with today's questions, and we will see you hopefully soon. Have a nice March break.